This meeting is being recorded.
All right, it's 3 o'clock. I'll call the Seneca Healthcare District regular meeting to order. And we'll meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Velez versus SHD. Government Code 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Robles versus SHD, and Health and Safety Code 32106, report involving trade secrets. And present, we have Sherry Thrall and Ken Crandall in the room, and myself. And Rich, you're on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And do we have Ryan yet? All right, when Ryan joins, he'll let us know he's here. So let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Carefully. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, and with that, that brings us to our public comment period. Deborah, do we have any submitted via online?
There were no online requests for comments, and we had no calls or any kind of notice of comments.
Okay. Anyone in the room or online right now who has a wish for public comment?
I have
Okay.
no hand.
Thank you, TK. All right, hearing none, we will move on to item number 6. So position assignment of our newly appointed board member, Sherry Thrall. Just want to appoint you officially to the Assistant Secretary Treasurer position. Okay.
I heard that rumor.
All right, so the next will be our approval of our board meeting minutes. If board members had a chance to review those, the minutes from January 26th, I'll open up for any questions, clarifications, comments. And if there are none, I will accept a motion to approve them.
I move approval.
Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second?
One second.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. All right, medical staff report. Looks like we don't have anything to review for this month. Moving on to policies and procedures. These are the 2 medical staff procedures that I was questioning at our last meeting, whether the board was supposed to approve, to rescind, et cetera, for these, and it looks like we do. So I will accept a motion to rescind MedStaff Pro 007.001. And the memo just goes along with that, right, Judy? All we're doing is rescinding that one policy? Okay, thank you. All right, I will accept a motion to rescind that MedStaff procedure.
I will move that.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sherry. All in favor, Sherry?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. Okay, number 10. Sean, this is the Seneca Continued Membership Association.
Yeah, if we could take to tab D. Currently, Seneca Healthcare pays for a number of memberships. These are both advocacy groups and groups that provide us regulatory updates and such. We've reviewed these. I'm sorry, it's on 2 pages. It's supposed to be in a format that is landscape, but I have reviewed these, and the 2 that I have placed in yellow were the 2 that we are considering removing ourselves from as the associations. The ACHD, I'd like to take that one first. It's the 3rd one down. That group is an advocacy group. It's for more rural health and critical access hospitals. But from an advocacy perspective at the state level, they don't have a lot of juice at the legislature. However, the ACHD does provide some advantages to the board. They provide governance, they provide some board training and things like that. It's not a lot. It's $8,100 a year. So that's the one that I would like to bring to the board, because I think the value is more to the board than it is to us as an organization. And I'm going to take the board's direction on whether or not we reinstate ourselves into this or actually continue our membership. The second one I had yellow was the California Hospital Association, Northern California Hospital Council. I can tell you that it was yellow because I was painting that as removal and just staying with the CHA. But as you'll find out later in the agenda, there are several legislative bills that have been introduced that I think it would be think it would be wise to stay right now with the Northern California Council. We have some bills that we'll be talking about later that have a lot of effect on those folks that are established within that council. So there's a lot of rural health, a lot of critical access hospitals and safety net hospitals. So I would like to stay with that for the year, the Northern California Hospital Council. And ACHD is actually up to the board for me, just giving me direction as the CEO, whether or not we want to stay with that one. Once again, the value is more to the board.
I wonder if we could bring these up for review on an annual basis.
Absolutely, that's the idea.
Yeah,
So
probably we need a little bit better breakdown of exactly what advantages are they to the board, so we know what we're giving up or paying.
yeah, I was hoping that Jerry might be able to jump in there. Really, it's about board education and what does a board do, governance versus operations.
Yeah,
Things like
and
that.
Rich too, I want to hear him weigh in as well, but for the for the ACHD, traditionally pre-COVID, the board members would either annually or every 2 years attend their annual leadership event where they would give us education on governance, and then they would also re-educate on the Brown Act, and it was very helpful. We talk about, financials as related to healthcare districts specifically, issues facing healthcare districts in California, and that kind of thing. And you went to one too, right?
Yeah, and I found it very valuable, especially as a new board member, but I think because of COVID, we haven't participated as
We
much as
haven't,
I'd
right.
like to, but I found value in it.
Now, my question would be, I think, going back to this, some of these associations, you can still attend their events as a non-member, it just costs you more.
Correct.
So,
The
Is
cost
there-
benefit may not be there.
yeah,
So I did the calculation what it costs as a non-member, and there is a couple $1,000 difference overall if all of our board members took advantage of it. But here's what I'm going to recommend, though. I recommend that we stay with all of our associations right now and revisit them yearly.
And
There's
make
so
use
much
of them.
legislation happening that the ACHD does have a marker in advocacy, hopefully with CHA this year instead of opposing each other.
Mhm.
That I think, so my recommendation is there is value to the board for the ACHD. I would like to stay with everybody for a year and then reevaluate it next year.
Okay, and Rich, do you have an opinion on any
Yeah,
of this?
I've always been concerned about the CHA. Where the hospital council was valuable, but again, I'm talking past history. Are we getting value from CHA, Sean?
Well, yeah, I think CHA overall leans into the larger healthcare systems, which may be adverse to some of the things we're trying to do as a critical access hospital. However, I think that belonging to the Northern Council and not belonging to CHA is a bit of a,
That's what I was gonna ask you too.
it's a little bit of a political slippery slope.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
my past history in Northern California, we did just that. Belonged to the hospital council and got out of the CHA. What are our other Plumas County hospitals doing?
They're all staying with it. I've checked with the PDH, they're staying, but they have, especially with the legislation that's entering in now, they think that's politically an inconvenient time to leave CHA. They're on the council, they're gonna stay with that. The ACHD, they did stay with. That's why I'm going to recommend that we revisit this after some of this legislation pulls through. The bills are either rejected or brought to vote and see what happens. I think it's an inconvenient time to start exiting from some of these associations right now.
Yeah, and I think one that's missing from here that we in past were involved with was the California Special Healthcare Districts.
Yeah,
I don't know that we really have found much value there. I'm just mentioning that as one that we did belong to in the past.
Steve, do we get?
It's just special districts, not special healthcare, which
Mhm.
we, are.
Right. So that's why I don't
But it's like
necessarily.
the irrigation district,
That's why I think we found ACHD was more helpful, yeah.
Right. So my recommendation is that we stick it out for a year.
Okay.
It was budgeted,
Do we
Steve's
need-
here,
do
and then we
you need us to
revisit
vote
it.
To continue?
No,
with this?
it's just, we don't need to vote. It's just, I just wanted to get advice from the board.
So Rich, are you
No.
comfortable with that?
Yeah, well, yes, I think we ought to reevaluate CHA at some point in time. But is Steve, this District Hospital Leadership Forum, what is that?
It's a coalition, if you will, of district and safety net hospitals. So public hospitals, and they were formed to create, I don't know if they were formed or what they did is they're the group that puts together the supplemental payment programs, the intergovernmental loan transfer programs. So they have a CFO work group that we have a call every Wednesday morning. And then there's quarterly meetings where they pull in the CEOs from the hospitals. And participation with them is just absolutely vital. You know, for a $16,000 investment, we get $3 million in benefits. So, and they also have an advocacy arm, both state and federal.
Okay, do you belong to HFMA?
Not anymore.
Why? Was that not worthwhile, I guess? Isn't that your peer group?
Nationally, it is, yes, Rich. I think that what's more important, I found to be more beneficial is when I work with peer groups, to work with peer groups that are more small, more rural. I think what HFMA really went away from was that they were driven by the kind of like CHA, driven by the larger hospitals and health systems. And there was very little focus, although they tried giving some effort after receiving feedback to focus their efforts on smaller hospitals.
Okay.
I think and that's, Rich, where we really see the chasm is between the larger organizations that are really targeting the needs, desires of the large healthcare organizations and lobbying in that direction. And we're trying to find that middle ground where we really have good advocacy is for our size. The District Hospital Leadership Forum is the one that's the IGT. So that one's really important to us. But yeah, CHA, they'll say we're in there fighting for you guys and fighting for you guys. But I'll give you an example. Last year, they made a deal with the devil, in my opinion, and we're going to be facing it with Senate with the new Senate bill coming up here about minimum wage. I think they made a deal, frankly, at the last minute to appease a few of their larger members, to push it off. But now here we are, it's looming again, and it's going to seriously affect us. While people like ACHD are in there fighting for an exception too. CHA is not doing that. They're actually they're almost saying that it's a lost option for us, and everyone's going to have to do it. So I'm
Sean,
really, that's CHA.
Do you get a benefit from this District Hospital Leadership Forum, or is it only for CFOs?
Well, they bring the CEOs together too, but I think that they are up on regulation, any kind of reimbursement shifting, and they're an advocate in that regard. But the big one is the intergovernment transfers and stuff like that. They really stay on. I think it's really great for the CFO to be involved in that as well.
But the district hospitals, like in the Bay Area, some of the bigger hospitals are district hospitals. They're not rural hospitals.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
Okay, so are they involved, or is it just
Washington, Rich, is that the name of the hospital?
Washington.
Well, I used to work at El Camino Hospital. It was almost 500 beds when I was there.
Yep. So again, the thing that pulls us together, that group anyway, is that all of us are safety net hospitals to our community, whether we're large or smaller. Because we have Palomar Hospital down in San Diego County is a membership of our group out at Escondido. So, and that's a pretty big health system, or good sized health system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for putting this together for us, and I agree. I think that we should move along with them, and then if we can make sure all of our board members have access, Deborah, to these different associations, because I think they all have to get set up in one way or another. If you could help with that, that'd be great. That way they can explore and see what the value is, and for the board members as well. Thank you. Okay, moving on, let's see, next we have item 11, our air quality greenhouse gases study proposals. We have 3 proposals that are up for review. Donna, are you on?
Damn.
There you are.
Yes, so we had provided these proposals. We had put it on the agenda to make sure that it was available for review by the board. We had received them after putting it on the agenda because we weren't sure what value they would be coming in at, and whether they would need board approval. Because they came in at less than the 25,000, I would propose that we actually take this off the action item and let this be determined by Sean, if that is the correct protocol, because it's less than the 25,000 mark.
Any objections?
No objection.
John? Rich?
Yeah,
Ben?
I think Sean ought to tell us what he prefers and why.
Yeah, and we've been working with legal on this as well, just so you know.
Okay.
They're advising.
So you're still working through the process of determining which we would like to go
Absolutely.
with, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have not made a determination.
Yeah. So
But this is something we want, it will be determined soon so that we can launch this thing because of the air quality that's required.
So Rich, it sounds like the decision hasn't been made just yet, but we're gonna go ahead and table this from this meeting and go ahead and let our administration make the decision, and then let us know what that is. Is
And
that
I
all right?
welcome all input from members of the board in this, as you start to read through it. Have to take it.
Yeah, there's very, very variable differences between the 3. I know this,
Yes,
they're
there
extremely,
is.
extremely different, so,
Hard to compare. really.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what the choice is. Do you have anything else to add, Rich?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next up we have our joint conference meetings for this year.
Jerry, can I just see if
Yes.
Donna wants to stick around? I don't think she's got anything in the closed. If she wants to leave, you want to just dismiss her? Or?
Well, she has her
Oh, I'm sorry, her
critical
report.
access report.
Never mind.
Okay, that's
Jumping the gun. Yep.
Okay, so we need to assign or, volunteer 2 board members for each of our quarterly joint conference committee meetings for this year. So if everyone has calendars handy, we can go through this, or I can just have Deborah pull offline, if that would be easier.
Summer would be better for me.
Summer would be better for
but I
you?
am teaching one course, so I don't have the schedule for that course yet.
Okay, all right. Why don't we do this offline? Because I don't think we need to take up meeting time for it,
Okay.
Deborah. We'll just make sure we get it squared away, and then at our next one, we can just say who's attending which one. Does that sound all right?
Sharing what the joint conference committees are. Do you know what they're?
That's what I was just going to
Oh,
ask.
sorry about that, Sherry.
I'm going, I think we need to know what this is.
Do you want to take it?
It's a time, it's sort of an informal gathering of our medical staff and our operations staff and 2 members of the board to have a very open, non-agendized discussion about how things are going. It's basically an open forum for asking lots of questions, getting feedback from our medical staff. And it just brings awareness. It's a lunch, so it's very informal. It's just a matter of the board hearing from everybody around the room what's happening. That's not formalized and agendized.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it is
it's
actually.
beneficial.
It's very helpful because sometimes there are things that have been percolating that, we don't know we need to help address, or
Right.
there are things that we're seeing that maybe we need to let people know about. So it's actually a really nice forum to use.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on. I'm gonna wait to talk about number 13 until after Sean does his
Okay. so,
report, just
yeah.
because you have the whole outline of the bill in there, it'll be easier, I think.
Okay.
So let's move on to 14. Our December 2022 financials, Steve.
Hey. I don't know are we presenting materials?
They all have the reports.
They all have the part, perfect. Right.
It's under tab F.
No, I think he's asking if TK was going to show up there.
Yep, there it is. Diggity.
Thanks, Steve. I can't see up there.
Abby finally made it. Okay. So I'm presenting the December 2022 financial statements. And the backstory behind this, December is our first month of financial reporting utilizing MultiView, which is our new financial accounting system. We transitioned from Evident CPSI on December 1st. And it was a challenge to get there, but with the work of Kristen Courtright here behind me and Janelle Hardig in accounts payable, we did get there. One of the big things, the biggest challenges we found, at least from my perspective, I wasn't there with them battling the daily battles, but the biggest challenge we found was through the invoicing process and how information got in, and Janelle's had to, at least for now, change the way that she processes invoices and then gets them into the MultiView. We actually upload them into the cloud or wherever it is. And then the checks are issued. This is a big change from where she just entered the invoices into CPSI directly. So that took a great deal of time. And what it also did was it created a bit of a timing difference, if you will, for how the transactions were recorded. In other words, were they recorded in the proper accounting period, December, January, wherever, February. And so that was the biggest thing about pulling the information together. Kristen had built the financial reports, the balance sheet, the income statement, and the trial balance reports that we used to prepare the financial statements, and those were great. Those were really very, very useful, much more friendly, if you will, data management friendly than Evident, which was like a snapshot, a static picture, an endless amount of PDFs. And so that was very helpful. The real good news is everything came across from Evident, both from the day we cut off at Evident, November 30th, and then also we're still able to put some transactions into Evident. I'm able to do journal entries. We're able to put payroll in that way. And then of course, all of the revenue and receipts are going to still come through Evident until we move to Cerner in May. So that came across just with one small difference, which was pretty darn amazing. That was very exciting. But so that was the short story long. That so what happened is that we had to do some analysis of the expenses we had that are specifically recorded into the month of December, and found that there were some items that were not there. And so we did some larger than normal accrual entries to get the expenses in there. And so what I've done here is I'm presenting these financial statements in what I call draft form. And that's just so that we can get out some financials to you, which are pretty representative. We feel pretty good, or I feel pretty good about these. There's some things I specifically know about, but generally speaking, pretty good. And then what we'll do is when we close the month of January, if we see that January is out of whack because some December stuff is in there, then we may look at reissuing December and then January If not, we'll just go forward. The plan right now is to close accounts payable for the month of January tomorrow-ish, in the next few days, and then start working on the month end for January's financial statements, which won't be far off from our normal cycle, because even if we were in our normal cycle, this would have been a tough month end to board meeting to meet, being the 23rd of the month. Probably definitely wouldn't have got the information out to you a week in advance, but certainly in advance. So anyway, are there any questions about?
No, we really appreciate, Steve, you and your team putting this together and being able to bring it to us today. We know that there's a lot shorter month this period, plus all the extra challenges, so thank you.
Yeah, if I can just say that to come live on the new system, Multiview in concert with all the Cerner requirements that we're doing right now, it's quite a feat.
Yes.
So I really appreciate your team, Steve, for
I do too.
doing just great due diligence on Multiview.
I do too. So
Now, the invoicing piece, I'm curious, is that a workaround?
say that again.
The invoicing challenge that you guys had, what you put in place, is that going to be a workaround just until Cerner, or is that going to be a permanent process, or?
Well, that's a great question, because what Kristen and Janelle specifically will find out very soon is they'll go through what's called the end user training for Cerner, and all of the purchasing information will be into Cerner, and it will come across to Multiview, and so it's yet to be seen or determined what that'll be like. But since the PO information is already in Cerner and is coming across to Multiview, that should be a significant enhancement, because there's still stuff where Janelle is doing she has to pull the POs out of Evident now. So, and hopefully it will reduce dramatically the amount of paperwork. And it will also, I think, this is something Kristen and I will be focusing on, is it'll also create some processes, some checks and balances. Multiview has, has approval processes within their system and the way it works that, you had to do manually through Evident, literally signing pieces of paper or things like that, whereas it's like approved and away you go. And that includes at the department level, where you're assigned, individual department managers will have, a relatively low but a spending threshold where they can say, I can buy something under $500 or whatever it is, and if not, then somebody has to approve it. And 1,500,
You can put those rules
So
in
it
place.
doesn't, so it gets queued up for whoever requires the approval. Okay.
So it's,
That'll be
we'll
nice.
see. And that's kind of it. So with all that said, the month of December was actually a positive month to budget. We had a net loss. Good gravy. That's something when you print them side by side. With the grids. The net loss for the month was $314,000 versus a budgeted net loss of $427,000. A positive variance of $113,000. And Sherry, this is just something you'll get used to, I hope.
I've been watching
She's been watching
this
for so long.
Actually, Sherry, I hope you never get used to it, because I'm not.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
this is not new to me.
But just, when I say
Negative budget.
we lose money, we lose less than we budgeted, we're gonna lose, but
That's a win.
it's a positive variance. But no, someday when the revenue's there, but right now, this is the way we run. And then, as we talked about when we met, that the supplemental payment programs come in and take away,
And back to,
take away the loss and then put us into profitability. Funny money. So it's all right. So anyway, we had a positive variance of 113,000. It was a combination of both the patient revenue, net patient revenue being positive, and the expenses were positive to budget. In the patient revenue, the majority of it was on the outpatient side. In the month of December, we had some providers out, so our clinic visits were down and our ER utilization was quite high. So both the visits to the emergency department and the supporting ancillaries drove the positive variance of outpatient revenue. Inpatient was a combination of the actual inpatient med-surg beds. We had 44 patient days, so that's a pretty busy inpatient. But there were no swing bed patients for the month, so there was a slight positive variance on total inpatient. Going down into salaries and wages had a negative variance, but in turn, the contract labor had a positive variance. We saw a big shift of, at least in the month of December, that reduction in the use of CNAs. And the medical professional fees, this is quite odd. We normally fall right around budget. That we're positive to budget for the month. There's the detailed analysis in the back, but the actual source of the variance is kind of buried in other provider fees, and that was Lake Almanor Physical Therapy took some well-deserved time off, and so their revenue, and then of course the corresponding expense was down. So the rest of the stuff kind of fell in line. Full transparency, I did tweak the budget a little bit just because we'd have these big variations here, or not big, but some variations that we'd be explaining that was due to maybe some under-recording of expenses. The other expenses down at the bottom, the variance there is we've been paying housing for the locum doctors we've had here, Dr. Backham and now Dr. Russo, and also we've been using locums in the ER a little more, correct? So overall, that was it. Our cash stayed pretty flat as kind of an odd thing. We did lose money, but we also had our AP grow. And the big thing was, if you remember from November, we tried to pay as many bills as we could before we went to the new system, so that we gave ourselves a little bit of lead time before we had to start writing checks in the new system. And so the AP's the accounts payable has kind of grown back to where it was. And then accounts receivable had a bit of a small growth, and the AR days went with them. We, earlier this month, we made, about 1.4 million in the intergovernmental transfer payments. It went out a little over $1 million for the rate range program, and a little over 300,000 for the QIP program. And we should see both of those the supplemental payments come back within this fiscal year, maybe even as soon as April or May. And it should be something around $3 million. So that'll balance the budget, and away we go.
Thank you, Steve. I think you read my mind, because the other expenses was the one question that I had. Board members, any questions for Steve or comments? Rich? He might have dropped off.
Put him to sleep.
He may have had to drop. Well, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. And we're gonna.
I'm here.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, please.
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second to approve the accept the
second.
financials? Thank you, Ken. All in favor, Sherry?
Yes.
Rich?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. AB Brown Act Amendment, item 15, 361. Basically, that's going to be the emergency declaration for California. It's going to be ending at the end of this month, right?
Yes, so I think there'll be more discussion. I don't honestly see a diversion of what we've been doing for the last 9 months, regardless of the emergency order.
Well,
I think-
according to the input we got from Noel, though,
Noel.
well, our public meetings will have to go back to how they originally were, where we need to have a quorum in the room
That's
to
correct.
have a quorum.
Yeah, to have a quorum, but as it relates to offering a public option,
Right.
I think we need to continue that. I think people are growing accustomed to a virtual option. So I think we'll probably keep this going, but as far as members of the board, that part of being able to be virtual is going away. So you have to have quorum in the room.
So
As long
Deborah,
as you have a quorum in the room, then participants, other board members can.
That's
participate.
correct. You have to have
Correct.
quorum in the room, which we normally do,
but they
Yeah.
also have to have their address on the agenda, as well as
Where they are.
where they are has to be open to the public for anyone to attend if they were to so choose.
And handicapped accessible.
And I didn't know about that one. And handicap accessible, apparently.
and I'm sorry.
Wherever they're,
Handicap accessible.
really.
I
Yes,
found
well,
that out from the air district, because I held 2 meetings at my house over the last 16 years. And you had to post it and have it where if somebody came, it was handicapped accessible.
So this raises concerns in a similar nature to committee meetings?
You know, that's a good question, because
I believe so.
probably,
If it's the full public committee meeting, but if it's just the two of you meeting to discuss
Right,
before, then that, I wouldn't think that would apply there, just the public
Right.
meetings, right? Yeah.
well, we'll just meet somewhere where we're eating and
Right.
it's accessible.
There you go. Where it should be.
I can think of a few locations around town.
And Deborah, thank you for checking with our board members before our meeting here to make sure that we would have a forum. Do you mind doing that before each of our meetings, maybe a day or two
No
ahead?
worries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. Then we can move on, I think, to HRG. Steve?
Yeah, it's a similar story. That I said in the finance report, that the AR did grow a little bit. It's all around Medi-Cal, which broken record. It is a constant battle. We did see some significant movement payments in January and seeing more payments into February. So, and it's really around long-term care. I don't know why payers are being so difficult, but they are. And now we'll see more of it with all of our residents are being moved from traditional straight Medi-Cal to managed plan.
Oh,
Yeah,
for what reason?
I think they want to move in Medi-Cal entirely to managed care.
Callahan,
Okay, so what will that
it's the
mean?
Callahan, right?
Callahan,
It's the whole Callahan thing. The push for Callahan,
Okay,
introducing more bodies into the Medi-Cal program and being able to manage it more effectively, which is, I can tell you, I think it's going to be a hit for us. I think it's going to be a hit for everybody. I think Callahan's going to be a real painful thing.
oh, hit.
A hit.
Sounds like a good hit.
I don't think so. Well, it depends if the reimbursement structure gets better, but the absorption of additional bodies into the Callahan program puts stresses on the hospitals, and there has been no discussion at all of raising the reimbursement. None, zero. It's all been thou shalt cover more lives. And we aren't even considering at this point, from what I understand, any kind of an adjustment. So it's funny. I think it's actually going to be good for us from a census perspective, but I'd sure like to see an adjustment. Wouldn't you, Steve?
Yeah.
so from our residents' perspective, they won't notice a difference.
No.
right?
You?
Nope, not a bit.
And so far, it's gone well. I just noticed that 3 of our residents just received their TAR approvals, so the treatment authorization request. So basically, we can bill now. So that went really well.
So I think that's one of the benefits actually is people they're gonna be able to qualify faster under Callahan. We're gonna be able to get that pushed through faster. I think that's the whole idea. But once again, it's been 10 years since we've seen any kind of adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went to this big legislative conference, all policymakers, and not one mention there wasn't one mention of adjusting at all, just putting more bodies in the system.
What percentage of our overall client population?
Medi-Cal.
Medi-Cal.
Well, our Medi is 72%. What's
Yeah.
Medi-Cal? 23.
Yeah, 15 to 20%. And a big chunk of that is the residents, the long-term care.
Yeah, I think that when we've got to partnership, that we'll see about.
We like partnership.
That'd be good. That's next year. So we'll see.
So can I ask this question for you, Steve? Because we've been talking a little bit about aging off accounts off of our current system and then how that's going to work before we even start talking about the new system. So I think we talked about keeping them on the books for about 90 days and then something at that point,
6 months.
6 months.
So that's
Okay.
that's the term of our agreement with HRG to manage the accounts out of evidence. However, we had a call today with the company that does, I know that everyone cringes when you say having the same company, although it's a different division, do both your soft patient collections and then the hard bad debt collections.
Yeah.
But we are talking to them about just sending all of the evident private pay stuff to them. And then they can work it for an extended period of time. There's no timeline on that, but we're just not sure what's going to work best for us.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad it's not 90. For some reason, my brain was saying 90 days, and I was like, wait, we have almost 500,000 in age 90 plus days right now. So that was where I was coming from. So how much do you think we would be able to spin down by that 6 month turnover period? Just a high level, pie in the sky, won't hold you to it, just.
Well, I think probably,
7%.
yeah, probably a very high percentage because we'll be only adding a limited amount to the population. So it's everybody that's already, the bulk of it is everybody that's already in that status with HRG. And theoretically, you have 180 days from the time that, well, a minimum of 180 days from the time that it becomes the patient responsibility. That could be day one if they're uninsured, or when the primary insurance or the regular insured third-party payer is done with their part and then patient responsibility established. You cannot turn to bad debt in less than 180 days. So that's kind of the general rule of thumb. So all the stuff that's already in the current population, we think we can have that settled.
Okay.
It's just the stuff we add from when HRG works the outstanding third-party stuff and then creates patient responsibility accounts.
So like say someone this month becomes responsible for something that they were seen for in December, November, or
I
whatever.
realize it.
Okay, so those will be beyond 6 month period.
There's a
so-
possibility, and we're looking at all kinds of options of like increasing the discount for paying your bill in full, or settling an outstanding an amount that's settling amount that's on like a payment plan. And then what we would want to do, though, the ideal thing would be to get everybody on a payment plan, so that we don't have to do the thing where we just go through the motions of sending out statements and then eventually turn them.
Can you offer a discount for enrolling them in the payment plan?
Sure, we've done that where we've, said that if you agree to pay it within this time, we can give you some bit of a discount. But yeah, it's really, it is somewhat of a negotiation when it comes to doing these things.
So are we going to take that on a piecemeal basis, or are we going to try to come up with a policy that we're going to apply across the board to everyone?
I think we're going to take one big swing at it, as far as telling everybody, if you settle your account right now, 50% off or whatever.
Close it out.
And, it's a touchy thing because people have been religiously, if you don't mind that word, religiously been paying their bills, and you say, what about me? I say, well, we'll give you a deep discount. And
Are we, in one sense, incentivizing not people to not make their payment?
Well, we have to be very clear about the reason why we're going to a new system.
And this is a one-time, this is a one-time only
Right.
kind of thing. So,
So Steve, if you have somebody on a payment plan
mhm.
and say they've been paying wrong for 6 months, 8 months or something, and then they stop paying and they don't pay anymore, what happens with those? I hope there's not very many of those, but I'm sure there are some. So what's the next step that we take
Are
when
you
they
talking about
default on their payment?
Are you talking about in general or under these unique circumstances of converting a system? Because
Well, I would say first off, in general, the unique circumstance hopefully only happens once in a lifetime.
Yes.
Not changing the system yet.
so essentially what happens is if they don't make their payment, then the soft collection process starts. And so that's the 180 days. And so we start sending out statements saying, you're past due, you missed your payment. And to keep them from going to collections, when they do start making payments, they need to become current on missed payments. So
Starts the clock.
because an ideal situation would be you just stop making payments for 150 days and then make one payment.
Then start the clock.
Yeah, and frankly, that's one of the things we're looking forward in Cerner because Evident is very, it starts the clock over again very, very easily. And so it doesn't track the compliance with our collection policies very well. And it also, when people have multiple accounts, if you make a payment on one account, then in CPSI, it'll say, okay, they're current, they're good.
Even
Because
though
it's-
they might have 2 other accounts.
Correct.
Or what.
Makes it good on all accounts.
It's called a
That's
guarantor
interesting.
statement. So we're looking to do that. And, ultimately, Sherry, the way that we view the collection of bill here from a patient that owes the money is we look at their ability to repay it. We don't ask them to, someone that doesn't have the ability to pay $10,000. We don't ask you to pay $10,000. We have financial assistance programs, a sliding fee scale that allows if the patient or responsible party can give us the information, such as tax returns, sure, so we can verify their income, that we'll discount their balance down to amount they can afford, and ultimately that's what it comes down to is we say, here's our scale. We don't want a payment plan to extend beyond a year. We'd like everything settled within a year. If you can't do that, then we ask that you demonstrate, how is it that you can't do that? And so,
That makes good sense.
yeah, well, we try and work, and it's
Well, because I'm just thinking,
It's
as
sensitive.
stressed as people are financially right now,
Mhm.
the bill here might be the last one on the pile.
It's a balance. It's a very balance between being sensitive to everything going on and trying to collect, trying to
Right.
and keep the door open. Yeah,
Because these, after all, are the people we're here to serve.
Right.
exactly. That's what we're here.
So,
Jerry,
okay, thank you.
with Covered California, do you have many people without any insurance at all?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we do. We're pretty significant.
Amazingly,
Steve could answer
yes.
that probably better.
Because I thought Covered California was supposed to give everyone some type of insurance.
And I don't think everyone wants it though.
Yeah, provided they-
Right.
go get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get it. And I think now they're starting, I just read something, and I don't want to just paraphrase that if you're not covered, and you've been offered Covered California, I guess the next step is to put you on it and tax you. But it's held up in court.
How in the world
Whoa.
did that
It's held up in
happen?
courts right now. It's being challenged, that we offer it to you, we offer the insured, we offer the insurance. If you choose to opt out, then we're going to give it to you anyway and tax you on it. It's being held up in court. It's probably going to lose, but this is the
Interesting.
push in California to be a socialized healthcare state, and that no one should be uncovered. And uncovered in Cal AIM talks about, whether, it's undocumented or families of prisoners and things like that, where there is no, there's a lot going on as it relates to making sure that California is covered. So there's a lot of challenges to it as well.
Does that help answer your question, Shirley? A little
It's-
bit?
A little bit, but not the whole, but, well, you can't force them.
Correct.
No, we can't.
Well, there's an
You can go to
attempt.
a hospital, get treatment, and not pay at all.
Right,
And you can't refuse to treat them.
Correct.
nor would we
Not
want
to the
to.
emergency room.
Right, and you can't say, well, before we're going to treat you, we want $100,000.
No, definitely don't want to do that.
No wallet biopsies.
All right.
Messy.
Any other questions or comments on the HRG report?
Great job, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve, very much. Thanks for keeping on top of all of this
Great
for us.
team across the hall.
Okay, let's see, moving on. Donna, are you still on for the critical access hospital report?
I am.
All right, you're up. Thank you.
All
Steve.
righty. Thank you. Okay, so diving into the document that was provided, CEQA NEPA, we are plodding along with this.
Go ahead, Donna.
Did we lose her?
Donna, we can't hear you.
She's frozen.
Oh.
Donna's frozen and it's freezing outside, so.
And it's snowing.
We'll give her a minute. If it doesn't, then we'll switch to you.
Yeah,
and come back.
I'm not gonna do it as much justice as she will, but
Well, I meant we could switch to your report.
Okay.
And then come back.
we can
to
do,
her.
why don't we do that now and see?
Okay.
I know that Donna's not in her house, so she may have
Donna, if you can hear us, let us know when you're back. We're gonna switch to the CEO report.
Sure. So the new hospital build effort, I was hoping that Donna would be able to cover it, but the bottom line is, the upshot is, we're still moving through our CEQA. We are on a critical path timeline as it relates to county review. Oh, there she is. Hello, Donna. Can you hear us?
Oh, you're muted, Donna.
You're muted. Muted. There you
Okay.
go.
Sorry.
There we go.
got it.
Got you now.
Okay, so Sean, I see you were going along. So CEQA is moving along. Legal review and county review has been done for the draft document, and the CEQA consultant continues to make edits to that to try and get the document that much better, such that we feel comfortable that it can be recommended for approval to the Seneca Healthcare Board for the project, and that ultimately the county staff will be able to recommend approval for the general plan amendment rezone to the Board of Supervisors. So that's our goal as we're going through these edits, to make sure that we've got a solid document for those two, as well as the LAFCO annexation approval that will be using this document for their board approval. We are looking at I'm aiming for this to go out public the beginning of March, in which case with a 30-day calendar day review, and then the edits to follow, we likely will not be able to make bringing it to the board for the April board meeting. So we instead will be likely requesting a special board meeting at the beginning of May for approval of the document for the application to the project. I would propose that I get back to the board at March's board meeting to as we further refine the schedule and move down the path. I think in March, I'll be able to propose some dates for that May special board meeting. So just a heads up at this point for that.
Good, Donna.
And this is critical path, so there's not a lot of wiggle room. This is absolute critical path right now.
Right. Yeah, this is, and the whole goal on this is making sure that we are through approval of the CEQA document by the Seneca board, approval of the general plan amendment rezone by the Board of Supervisors and the LAFCO annexation so that we can maximize construction during this summer. So doing the timber harvest and doing the grading and site prep, inclusive of installing utilities over this for this calendar year before we button up for the winter. Okay, with that said, NEPA is the other component. We are, it's on the page above there. We did receive the information from USDA that it's just a CAT-X with report that'll be required. They are not requiring a full environmental report. So that is a good news that they are realizing that this project is not requiring more than that CAT-X. We are, once Sequoia, our consultant, finishes the CEQA document for approval by the Seneca Board of Supervisors and LAFCO, once they've got that often kind of pushed off their desk, I will get brought to their forefront the NEPA component so that we can get that moving forward as well. And USDA will need to approve this document before any site activities begin. So we've got all these environmental boxes that we have to check before we can begin the timber conversion plan, the harvesting, and the site work. So we're focused on environmental right now, so that we can, with that goal of maximizing work during the summer.
Hey, Donna.
Yes.
That's really great news, but can you explain what the CAT-X report is?
I can send you the information. It's pretty complicated. I mean, it's not, I don't know how I would describe it in so many words. So can I provide it to the board, the documentation of the explanation of that? Does that work?
That's fine. Yeah, or just send it to Donna and she can, I'm sorry, Deborah, and she can send it out to us.
You got it.
Thank you. I just want to kind of get an idea what that is, but great news, because I was really concerned about the having to possibly wait till after the USDA loan was approved. So
yeah. I'll touch on that in just a little bit, because we just got the email as this board of directors meeting was going on for that clarification. So put a pin in that for a minute. Let's go down to the next item on the document. So I did meet with Collins Pine representatives in regard to the memo of understanding for the development and maintenance of the heliport flight path that would be going over their property. They are great neighbors, really wanting to make this work, while also making sure that they want to be great neighbors to their other to our other respective neighbors. And so we're talking about how we can best maintain as many trees as we can next to the Maywood residents as possible, and potentially talk about some beautification there. We are looking to do a site walk with Collins Pine at the end of March along with the Collins Pine representatives, myself, Sean, Jerry, and the timber conversion consultant, Sierra Timber Services, so that we can kind of just get our eyes on what trees we're talking about needing to be removed as a part of the heliport. And so those discussions are ongoing. And additionally, we haven't moved yet the MOU forward to execution, because we're getting some further input from legal on clarifying language to make sure that it's clear within the MOU that we're not proposing to gain the approvals and remove the trees, gain the CAL FIRE approvals of the associated tree removal and removing those trees until we have the approval of the heliport itself through Division of Aeronautics /FAA. So we just want to make sure that that's clear on the MOU, that we're not going to be proposing any trees get cut before the helipad is 100% approved. we are still working on who will help us get those heliport approvals, and so more to come on that. We're working through making recommendations for how we proceed with selection of those heliport consultants. For the harvest plan, other than what's already been discussed above, there's no update from the January 26th Board of Directors meeting. Moving down, the LAFCO, or no, I'm sorry, the Wildwood easement. We had received advisement from legal to go ahead and proceed with recording that executed easement with PCCDC for that southwest corner of their property. The design build entity may have an alternate solution, but if that were the case, we could go back and negate the easement or lacking on the word, negate the easement if need be, but we want to make sure that we're not leaving anything stale with signatures and going ahead and recording it and then acknowledging that we may have to go back and rescind it. That's the word I was looking for. Additionally, again, we have the verbal Wildwood's verbal acceptance of the potential for doing a secondary access up on that northeast corner of our property. But again, design build entity might have an alternate solution. So we're working through that to determine whether these easements are necessary or not. So more to come on that. No update on LAFCO. Just in that we are working to get that application submitted in March. And then scrolling down. No update on the ballot measure following Fieldman Roll-Up's presentation from last month. The USDA, we did receive formal invitation from USDA to apply and had a meeting with those representatives to review the requirements. As Jerry referenced earlier at first, during that meeting, it was stated that all we needed in order to, there's several pieces that need to be submitted as part of the USDA application, but looking at the schedule and the dependencies of what they require as compared to starting our site work and again, maximizing our summer construction this year. During the meeting, they had said that they needed the environmentals to be approved, so that NEPA CADX would need to be submitted and reviewed and approved prior to site work proceeding, and that is doable because the other thing that in that meeting was clarified was that we are able to piecemeal the submittals. So all the little pieces that need to be part of that final application that can be submitted separately, that we don't have to wait for everything to be done to submit it. And so having that NEPA requirement for site work was not concerning. However, afterwards they came to us and they sent an email saying, oh, by the way, not only does NEPA need to be done, but the whole loan has to be approved prior to breaking ground. And so that was extremely problematic because we don't anticipate full loan until well into, if not after, the summer. And so we just, as I indicated earlier, just while this meeting was going on, got clarification back from USDA saying that was not true. It was only the environmental that needed to be complete prior to breaking ground, with the understanding that there was no guarantee for the loan. So more to come on all the financing. Steve, Sean, myself, Fieldman Roll-Up, we're all working to make sure that we're minimizing any risk or minimizing risk associated with proceeding in parallel and what those those financials look like in order to be able to proceed. But bottom line, as far as this is concerned, is that that the USDA loan isn't going to hold up the construction. The philanthropy, the only update on this is the second paragraph there about the federal community project funding or the federal earmarks. We are, Chelsea is working diligently to put together a request that is for a medical equipment package as listed here, the mammo, the ultrasound butterfly, the ultrasound that will eventually be moved to the new critical access hospital, a new DEXA, a new C-arm that would ultimately be moved to the critical access hospital, and a new slit lamp that would also ultimately be moved to the new critical access hospital. So those are going in an application for federal funding that we believe we haven't gotten the application yet, but we believe based on last year's timing that it's coming up here shortly, maybe in March, that's going to be due. So we're working on Chelsea's working on that application. The schedule, again, fully dependent on maximizing the timber removal and grading and site during this summer. So we're pushing as diligently as we can, as hard as we can to make sure that we meet that goal in order to keep our first patient for Q1 2026.
Our snow melts by then.
By summer?
Who knows? This
Oh,
year's weird.
no. Okay, no updates on budget, same as was reported last meeting. For design, as was approved by the board of directors at the January meeting, the notice to proceed has been executed and issued to the design build entity. And just want to clarify that is for the design work through permit. So the design work through permit was given notice to proceed, and the design build entity is working diligently to get set up for meetings that start next week. Next Monday and Tuesday, we have user group meetings and mock-ups of rooms that will be done via VR in the second floor of the clinic. And then they'll take that information, that feedback from the users to go back and put plans together and meet again for a second round of schematic design at the end of March 20th and 21st. So moving forward with the design. Additionally, there's going to be some pool planning scheduled starting March 7th. This will work to get all the pieces of the big picture put together, when we need to bring on different consultants, where the different milestones are, and what work needs to be done ahead of those milestones to do proper handoffs to the people that are downstream from those milestones. So lots of good work happening there. And I think that's it for design, and then no updates on medical equipment planning. We'll be bringing them in likely the end of schematic design, if not beginning of design development. Are there any questions?
I just was wondering if I saw the message that came across about the board members touring the Bolt facility. I don't know if we have any around setting up multiple sessions to do that, if that's possible. Or if
I don't think that we've moved on that
Okay.
schedule.
Okay, yeah, just so the board members know, legal did come back and say that if we had more than two, we were going and touring the facility, even though it was simply a tour and that was all that was being done. And we couldn't do it unless, it was public. So they suggested that we break it up into two, and I guess one, if we wanted to do it that way. So I guess more to discuss and come on that one.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Donna. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns? Anything to add?
Thank you.
Enjoy your event.
Thank you,
Okay,
Donna.
thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, looks like you're up, Sean, for your report now.
Sure.
Sorry to
So
interrupt you.
the new hospital build, I think that Donna has done a really, really great job of summarizing where we are. I can say, and I want to stress to the board that we have no wiggle room in our time frame right now as it relates to Tracy Ferguson's review of our CEQA, legal review, rewrite, and then getting it out. And first, she's got secondary review coming. That there just isn't any wiggle room in the time frame. We've got to get this through the Board of Supervisors in a time frame that allows us to do our harvest. So we're walking the tightrope a little bit here on all of this.
Remind me, do you recall about how long we expect the harvest and the site grading to take? Like if we have.
I don't have the calendar in front of me. I thought that from dropping and taking out stumps and everything was a month.
That's it?
That's what I thought. That's what it looked like.
Okay.
Roughly a month. That's a lot of big tractors, a lot of work.
Yeah,
over there.
that's a lot of work over there.
Is there going to be an issue securing someone to do that, a company? to
No,
do
we've
that?
already got bids.
You've got that.
Yeah,
I
we're
was
ready to
just
go.
looking at the
Once we get
landscape.
CEQA
around here.
approved, once we get the rezoning and everything done and it's approved, then we can go to work. We can issue a notice to proceed.
Good.
So they're all tuned up, ready to go. That's part of the walk, by the
Same
way.
question, I'm like, I know they're all
They're
so
busy out
busy,
here.
they can't even
Yeah.
think straight.
But that's part of the walk of Collins Pine to make sure that the harvester understands which trees and which not. So there's not much more to add to that other than let's keep our fingers crossed and keep pushing forward. I have been speaking to our supervisor from District 3 to start, if you will, getting things moving and thought processes around board supervisors and reminding them this is a hospital, not a bowling alley. So if we do our due diligence, it's passed through, we get good public comment, and let's move this thing forward. Legislative updates, we can talk about this. So two pieces of legislation that have me not sleeping very well at night. One of them is okay. So AB 869 is Assemblymember Wood's attempt to kick the can down the road, get exemptions for single-story wood frames, and or provide some sort of a grant to critical access hospitals that fall under this seismic bill. So there's a lot to unpack in this. It's asking for exemption. It's asking to kick it down 5 more years. It's asking for grant money to help fund not the rebuild, but a retrofit.
To a lower level of.
Right, to a lower level. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that I think this thing's going to fall on deaf ears. They're saying that no, they've got a lot of support. Frankly, I think it ties itself back into Senate Bill 525. The thought is that labor wants 525, and that they're willing to trade 525 for them not getting in the way of 869. I don't see it that way. I don't think that there's any bargaining chip here at all.
Well, and with regards to 869, I mean, even if that did pass, even if we weren't already well on our way to building a new hospital, I don't see how that would really help us anyway.
It doesn't change the infrastructure, the aging infrastructure.
While we're using the building.
Correct.
And we can't, exactly.
No.
So this doesn't really help us anyway.
Well, I think that kicking the can down the road is great. So it allows people to kind of set up their funding a little bit differently, but I'll give you PDH as a good example. They have infrastructure problems like we do. Right. So they can't not do something. There's no money to do something, and that's part of the grant, right? And then there's the whole exemption piece, which I don't think is going to fly. So the shtick here and the chess game here is that my understanding is that 525 is absolutely going to go through. That was actually, they pulled that last year. SEIU and all the unions pulled it last year, and it had overwhelming approval in a lot of the voting precincts throughout up and down the state, especially in some of the more urban areas.
And some areas have approved it for their
locally. They think 525 is a slam dunk. So the way I see this and what CHA and everybody's saying is, what kind of a bargaining chip is 869 when it's a slam dunk already? 525 is going to go through. Who cares? There's nothing that in my opinion, that is going to get the labor to even care about 869. Because labor is going to drive it. And they want this. They like that compression. That's money. That's big money, right? So they don't care where the money comes from. I think 869 is going to die on the vine and 525 is going to get pushed no matter what. There's no bargaining chip here. That's my crystal ball. Just, playing politics,
So now let's talk
looking at
about 525 and the impact.
the supermajority, and labor's impact on the legislature. That's what I think is happening. 525, we can talk about it a little bit more, it's a dangerous bill. I think that we calculated it, it's over $1 million net increase in operational costs just to us because of compression. So
Well,
what,
is that, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for
Yeah.
a second. Is that just looking at our minimum wage only? Because by the
Yep.
time you start increasing your lower level minimum
We
wage
have-
up, then you have to move
that's the
everyone else
compression we're talking
up.
about.
Right.
It compresses everything, then you got to move everybody up to keep
So
that.
does that million encompass all?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
Thank you.
That's the total net hit.
Who's impacted by that?
Every healthcare.
Every
facility.
healthcare worker, every healthcare,
That's what it is.
skilled nursing, behavioral health, clinics, everybody.
So the question is there any upside to this in terms of recruitment or retention?
Not for us.
No,
We've
because
talked about it.
everyone has to change it. I mean.
Well, so we're not at risk of, I don't think, so we're somewhat insulated. Steve and I were talking about this. I think that we are somewhat insulated in that if you want the extra $5 an hour and you got to go to Enloe to get it, what I'm saying is, are people going to really drive 30, 40 miles for a $5? Maybe. I doubt it. So we are a little insulated, but a lot of the places that are going to be affected by this live in suburbia. So you got a hospital 15 minutes away as a district, like the one, what was the one in San Diego? Palomar. So this is a big impact to healthcare. I think that if we lobby at all, it's got to be for an exemption for districts, special districts, critical access, safety net hospitals. That's where I'm laying my money.
Yeah,
Is
because it's another
to get an
unfunded
exemption.
mandate laid on top of another unfunded mandate, laid on top of another unfunded mandate.
Yeah,
But
uh-huh,
it's
and
huge.
without any reimbursement restructure. So we're going to at 525, I think it's going to get a lot of pushback from some of the criticals, some of the safety nets, and try to get an exemption. It's worrisome. It's very worrisome. I actually think that this is a way to create consolidation. If you really want me to get deep and dirty into dirty politics, I think this is a way to kill districts, kill critical access, and make them align with organizations that have already gone there.
Southern
Kaiser's already gone
California
there.
And Southern California.
And Southern California's already gone there, and the Bay Area's already gone there. What it does is it creates a critical state in a lot of these critical access, or in a lot of these safety net hospitals, to the point that they can no longer fund operations, which makes them vulnerable to a takeover. And I really believe deep down inside that might be part of this, is to consolidate out these things and have them align with larger organizations,
Which we don't want.
which we don't want.
Is Rich still with us? Is he gone?
So Rich is still. Anyway, it's worrisome. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, well, and that kind of brings us back to our item number 13. So I wanted to talk with the board about how the board feels about us submitting a letter opposing this bill to our legislators and our local leaders and just giving it, to everyone who might be able to help. I don't know if there's any thought around that.
I think it would be good to give it a shot.
We're submitting as a facility, as part of the group, into the CHD and some other ones that are opposing or looking for exemptions. But I think that the board of directors, if you wanted to support it, I think that'd be great. It just pile it on to say, hey, this is really going to sting.
Yeah, and I figured if you all agree, we would do that. And we'd also provide a copy to EPHC, PDH, and see if they could, jump on board and do the same thing. And anyone else in mayors or whoever else.
They're all going to oppose.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all in the process of opposing individually or through a consultant or through an advocacy association.
And so you saw Rich was on there. Rich, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, my opinion is we should be doing it through that list of groups that we belong to.
He said we are.
We are, yeah.
We were talking about going beyond that and as a board also submitting a letter to our
Directly to
local
our
legislatures and representatives.
That's fine, but I think the real power is going to be through the associations.
The deluge might help.
This, when we go back to the associations that we belong to, this is going to be a real testament and test to CHA on who they represent, truly who they represent.
Yeah.
Because they're between a rock and a hard place on this one, because they represent us too, and we're gonna know where their hearts lie on this one. Who they align with is gonna be very revealing, and this can be a real problem for CHA, I think, if they don't watch themselves. So it's a sticky thing.
Do we think we need a vote on doing the letter, or can the board just direct me
The
to?
letter is agenda. What's our time frame here?
No, the letter is agendized. It's on
The sooner the
13th.
quicker. It's going through markup now, so it's in the bill room.
I guess we could still do it.
It's on the 13th. I actually did have.
Yeah,
it.
it just wasn't anything about a letter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it
Requesting
says-
approval
What
to
is it?
submit an opposing
Submit an
letter.
opposing
Oh,
letter.
okay, I'm sorry.
I move that we submit an opposing letter on behalf of the district.
Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor, Ken?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very important. Okay, moving on to the clinical centralization projects. So our switchboard operator has been in place for a while. I do have a report back here on our Seneca Voice over IP system, so I'm going to kind of combine them. We did complete our transition to our new phone system. We ported all of our numbers from Frontier, but I found Frontier's got a very interesting, the way that have it designed is very interesting. So for a little while, we had some issues where some numbers that were supposed to be ported, were getting a disconnect notice. We were able to fix those issues. So now the phone system, if you call the old number, if you call the new number, it all comes into our switchboard operator, which can get it out to everybody. So that's actually starting to settle down a little bit. We had a problem with caller ID. Caller ID was such that even from a Frontier landline or from a cell phone, we were coming up as spam, potential spam, or coming up as all kinds of things. So we made a change where we are using our old 2151 number as the identifier outgoing. So anytime we call out of here from any phone, it uses the 2151 number, and we were able to get Frontier to give us caller ID for Seneca Health.
Oh, nice.
And we've tested it, it works.
Oh, good.
So now we shouldn't have the issue. It's easier to control just one Frontier than it is Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. So it looks as though I just got an email, it looks as though our caller ID now goes out as Seneca Health on all aspects. So
It's better than a
Great
license to
news.
show up as just healthcare.
yeah, so that's really good. So that's been coming around. The switchboard operator has been not overwhelming. I would say that the majority have met it with really, really good results. There are some folks that don't like the fact that they can't dial directly into the doctor's offices, but
That's
it's
easier.
change.
Yeah.
It actually gives us a lot more metrics, a lot more analytics. You get a live voice every time. Sometimes you call into the office, nobody answers. At least now we can direct a patient if it rings through. So that's going well. The referral and pre-authorization is going well. It is more digital than it is paper. It's going to be way digital. When we go to Cerner, the person that we have doing this right now is busy. So we are really judging whether or not they have the capacity to meet the need with all the volume coming into them. So we're going to be adjusting up and adjusting down on that, but it's getting done. Things are getting done in a very, very good manner. So good follow-up. So that's worked well. Centralized patient reception and registration. From a workflow perspective, it's going well. Registration is standardized now. It's going well. We have had some pushback, and it's change that I don't want that. It's a privacy issue and things like that. I've heard that from the community, and I have to say that this is standard of practice. So I'm sorry, wherever you go, the fact that that we're bringing you through a central location, I can explain the operational benefits to doing it this way, but it's change, and the community doesn't necessarily want change, and it's regardless of whether it's a good business decision or a customer service decision, it's change. So I am getting a little bit of pushback, but this is the right thing to do as an organization. So we're going to stay the course. We're trying to make it as smooth as possible, and it'll go into some other things that we're doing. So it's going. It's just a slow process. A little bit of change here. Campus upgrades, security cameras were supposed to be done today. The weather scared away our integration expert. So,
Yeah, lame.
so TK and they are working on a new date when the storm goes by sometime around July. Whenever this stops, he's happy to come, he said. So we'll have the security cameras up and running. Radiology digital transfer, it's in the queue. TK and the team are very, very busy with Cerner and everything else going on, the VoIP system. So it's in the queue. The electronic health record, we're going to turn over to Brian here in a little bit, but we're definitely moving. It is a lot. There's a lot. So the staff is extremely busy. Voice over IP already talked about that, and I have an update on clearing out the boneyard. For those, if you don't know, Sherry, we have a big section of this building that is full of junk.
Yep.
It is completely clear.
Amazing.
No way.
It's empty.
That is really
Whoa.
amazing.
I just saw what, 2 months ago?
It's empty. I recommend the board go up there after the board meeting and take a look. It is empty. With the exception of Pyxis units, which are going in for the Cerner implementation, and a couple of little things that we're keeping up there for a reason. Part of it's the SNF remodel stuff. It's empty, and it's all over at 198 Main.
Except for the files, right?
Files are next. So if Charlene's sure, I can see Charlene's on the phone right now. She's like, Charlene just passed out. But the boneyard is clear. I did get a call. I got a call today from Aspen, so I'm going to be speaking to Steve about potentially getting our drawings done for that so that we can build it out for the business units. But you can't believe it. You got to go up there and look. It's just
Should I know what 189 Main Street is? It's
198.
198.
That's the old firehouse. We
Down the street
had
from us.
we have stuff that we have to
Oh,
keep.
okay, right down there.
So we signed a lease with the CPUD for a very, very good price. And so we actually have a great storage area, and it also fits 2 vehicles. So we're putting a big van in there. So we rent space now at Old 198, just a portion of it. That's our storage.
Why that don't tread on me flag outside?
Yeah, that's a residence. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's a rental.
I think the renters control.
Yeah, that's a residence at this point.
Although it
Position-
is interesting.
Physician mid-level recruitment, I got to tell you, it's just continues to be a struggle. But we are going to take a little different tact on this, and I have to get my email up. We are going to be using a software. We're looking at a software called Choozle. Choozle is what all the recruiting companies use to get there and to blast it out there in the market. We are going to look at bringing Choozle in-house and doing our own recruiting with videos. It actually targets down to the IP address. So you can literally target people for recruitment down to their IP address. It's that detailed. So rather than spending a lot of money with recruiting companies that really don't seem to have an interest, we're going to do it individually. So I think we're going to take a little bit more hands-on approach to our recruitment. It's very difficult, and I won't reiterate, but everything you read it's just struggle for everybody. It's not just us. It is just a huge shortage of providers out there.
It sounds like what you're shifting to will be more of a personal touch though.
It is.
And
I think that
it's worth a
matters.
try.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try as well. We've got to do something different because we're not getting the results that we would hope for. So that in that case, I can tell you I did make an offer to Dr. Russo yesterday, and we'll see what happens with that. Okay. Seneca Healthcare Campus upgrades. We have our emergency room sign on the front of the hospital now. Finally, it's illuminated, so at nighttime people do not wander around wondering where the emergency room entrance is. The clinic patient transition area that's going to all the different offices is getting painted this weekend, and then new carpet early next week. So that'll, and all the art's going up, so it'll be a better feel for patients when we're being transported back and escorted back to the different offices. And once again, the boneyard, I had to put that twice, is cleaned out. That's all I have. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
That's a big space.
Oh, it's huge.
It is, yeah.
Boy, when it's empty, you can't believe it, how big it is. So. Okay.
Great job on that. I know that's been coming
It's
for
been
a
2
while.
years.
Yep. Anyone have any questions for Sean? All right, thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see what we have up next. Oh, Judy's up next.
Okay, as Sean mentioned, and Brian will be doing his report, but for our clinical teams, it is all Cerner all the time. Hours and hours and hours every day of Cerner. There's an end in sight.
Right
now. But it's all going to be good. There's a lot of work required to make this go right. And so we'll have another testing session in a couple of weeks and building off of our first testing session.
Do you have people assigned to try and break the system?
Yeah.
We broke it.
Good.
We broke it.
Good, good. That's what needs to happen.
We put some things in place and we'll see.
Yeah, the next testings, they put in the fixes and we're going to try to break it again.
Good.
On the COVID updates, talked a little bit about some of the changes that have been made regarding the therapeutics like Paxlovid, and who can get that and who can dispense it now. We are, as we mentioned, on February 28th, the state of California declaration of emergency terminates. We're actually waiting for the federal declaration to terminate in May before we anticipate whether or not there's going to be any sweeping changes related to current protocols. But for now, it's kind of business as usual, not a lot of big things, except there's no more funding. So that's kind of huge. So we will be requesting that the COVID hut go away. So
At the end of May.
I think we're putting in our
You know,
30-day
coming out,
notice
30-day
now,
notice.
but I don't know how soon they will be able to transport it away from here. But we are not utilizing it, and even though, you know, we have seen a little bit of COVID in the community, we are not seeing COVID hospitalizations right now, knock on wood. So-
And Judy, I see.
Just a little bit, there, false positives. I'm asking, my granddaughter had COVID, like, home test. Not a symptom. I mean, she was fine, ready to go. Nobody around her received. Contracted COVID. So I'm wondering if a lot of false positives, or
We believe there are no false positives.
there are no false positives.
We pick all positives as positives, even though they
Yeah,
may be.
So-
That makes sense.
But I can tell you that there are so many people that are testing positive that are asymptomatic.
Yeah.
They're testing because there's a family
We
member
have to,
and we have to, and they come up positive and they're like, I feel great. So we're not, it's weird.
Yeah. So we're watching this very closely. We're participating in a lot of webinars as everyone is trying to figure this out. It's nearly as confusing with this all coming to an end as it was when it was in the beginning. And so it's a lot of information to sift through and, conflicting reports of what's going to change, what will not. One thing that they are reassuring us on is that the COVID vaccine will still remain under the EUA and it will continue to be free. What won't be free coming in the near future are the therapeutics. They're going to go commercial. And so they will no longer probably be available through a pharmacist giving them out. It's going to be through a primary care provider, and your insurance will be billed for these. So,
And Judy, I see we're just doing boosters now. If someone were to want to start the series, would they need to go?
we have a very, very small supply of the primary series.
So they can
So it is
schedule it.
available, but it is quite rare that we're having someone come for their primary. Series.
This late in the game,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But we're still doing the fair amount of boosters. Let's see, so our CNA program is slated to start, we're hoping by March 21st.
I'm hearing community excitement about this.
Yeah.
I thought I'd let you know.
Thank you, that's good to hear.
We're excited because it offsets our
We're really
contract
hoping
labor.
That it will help with our recruitment of long-term CNAs, because the registry that we're having to use quite a bit is extremely expensive. And also, we would just like to grow our own here locally. So we're excited about that. The equipment, we have the additional Hillbrook beds for the acute care floor are on order. Long-term care unit, we welcomed a new resident last week, and she's fitting right in. She's just adorable. And we're finishing up that refresh project.
I've forgotten what our capacity is
16.
Our capacity is 16, so we're currently at 14. So as soon as that, the final refresh is done, then
What
we
last
will.
pieces do we have for that?
What's
What
that?
last pieces do we have for that?
I think we still have the break room and we still have flooring in several areas.
Okay, but the resident rooms are complete?
Very close.
Very close.
Okay.
Very close. Let's see, and then the last thing is we have our second auxiliary wish list items, which I actually received 2 more items yesterday after my report was published, but I also have the slit lamp on here, but if Chelsea has it on her other wish list, we might, because we're definitely going to
We need one of
exceed,
them, yeah.
we're going to exceed what the auxiliary will have available, so we'll have to determine one way or another which items are going to stay on the wish list versus going to Chelsea's project versus going to capital requests. And that's all I have this month, unless you have any questions for me.
Any more questions for Judy? Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah. Now you're up. Go ahead, Brian.
So students cameo. I did wanted to, we're really down through integrated testing 1, which was day 1. Everybody was nervous as a kitten, touching the keyboard, trying to find everything new. There were a couple issues first thing in the morning, which is kind of typical as we're breaking things, finding things not configured properly. Day 2, things were really clicking along. Got through our scripts. We dropped some charges, but they were mostly procedural charges. So the professional fees and things like that will hit us in IT2. And the staff right now are doing unit testing of individual testing instead of what the IT1 is essentially a trace. You follow a patient from beginning to end. They're tweaking the scripts from what we found in IT1 for what Seneca does and what doesn't do. And so we'll be following mostly those same scripts. So the second go around should be much easier for everybody going through that. The big hit right now is end user training that's coming through. I put a brief on the summary. I've got an update today. As of today, without a queue, we're sitting about 700 hours. Okay. So I should have that wrapped up by Monday or so from everybody. For some Sean to have the total list. We're getting the schedules in. The clinical ed building will use for the shared services. Mostly the bigger departments, the small departments have to do it in their own areas. The big thing we're finding right now is the Pyxis machine. We're pushing them. Pyxis is in place. It's the integration that we're working on right now. Pushing them really hard to make sure it's on the 24th. At latest will be the 1st. So we're trying to figure out what that gap is for that one. Long-term care is chugging along. Their training is a little trailing because they started later, but we will go live with long-term care. And then just for giggles, I put my schedule at the bottom so you can see all the meetings that this place has to go through. And the amount of
It's just like.
yes, I know. Well, it's the amount of work that everybody's got to get on top of getting their everyday things done. But when things need to get done, they're getting done here. I don't see really our biggest scare for a while was anesthesia machine. The anesthesia machine, there was hardware issues and supply issues that have been all along, but we got that done this week. So we've been testing that new anesthesia machine and getting those files directly into the record as procedures going along. Next week, we start testing the lab instruments. That equipment's all here. So those are the big things going on. We're hitting that final push.
People are tired.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. You can sense it. People are really tired. We're just having to keep that heartbeat going, keep that rhythm going because we're getting fatigued and we still have 2 months.
There was an unfortunate gap. There was a refresh in the build system of the system failed for the CDF right after IT1. Gave them a little bit of a break from being in the system, but it was also not great timing to go through that first testing and then have to take it away from everybody, because everybody was really excited to get back into the system.
The excitement has not waned. They want to get off the CPSI so bad. But well, I would say, is it fair to say people are pretty tired? Brian's tired.
But, you know, the timing is right for here, you know, going on with the end of April, gives you a good
Before summer.
before the crowd really gets here. I don't expect, after what I saw happen in this room from day one to day two, I don't really expect it to take long for them to get used to it. As providers, well, that's another story.
We know that. We know that for everything.
But it'll give us an opportunity to focus on the providers as well. Their concierge training is the week prior to go live, so they don't have an opportunity to lose the memory of those. They will have people here on site
At the old
go through on go live.
Any thoughts about giving some recognitions out once of appreciation when this whole process is over? It sounds like it's pretty arduous.
It is.
I think we're going to have a celebration. You know, I think that it's important to recognize the work. I would like to see that sometime middle of May, because the 2 weeks after go live are really treacherous. They're treacherous. We're tracking everything, watching, see if something's failing, making changes before we go to acceptance. So I think that a celebration of sorts. That was what, if you saw the newsletter, it was about spring break. That was what it's about, because we have been on the treadmill for 2 years here. As you know, we've done a lot of projects. And the last two, the VoIP and this one, have been huge projects. So we're going to take 2 weeks after or so, or even the beginning of June, we're calling our jets, if I know how to do that.
And then we start digging dirt.
Then we'll start digging dirt.
Yeah.
But I think that we're going to give the staff a
Well, we
big
don't have
breath
to,
and a
we just watch
celebration,
them doing it, right?
and then really get everyone to work into Cerner, because I've done this before, and you transition, and you want to, about 3-4 weeks after, you want to sneak back into some bad habits. So you really have to watch that.
It is, you know, it's one of the things that Sean and I, talking about Sean, is how can we keep the providers out of the old system? Because that extends like I
Don't let them put anything
No,
in
it's not
there.
even
It's the
on, you
first
can't even, you
part.
can't even log into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking at what we can bring forward, staging some of the, knowing the schedule is easy, those patients just are easy. What I did my own site was, we told each doctor, give me your top 50 patients. They may not have a schedule, but you know the frequent flyers that show up.
Yeah,
And try to
No,
reload
most
it.
definitely. That's a good idea, yeah. And then for our next round of testing, going back to you're talking about flowing through a patient all the way through the whole cycle, because I'm thinking from when you call in a schedule, all the way through to when you're
All the way.
receiving
We
the
do that.
billing, all the way through to when you're receiving funds from getting paid. So are
With
we gonna
different
do that
scenarios too.
From clinic, from skill.
We have 14 different scripts, so we had a colonoscopy, so it was registering to go to see the clinic, see the doctor at the clinic, then come to the hospital, go through the
Surgical
surgical
referral.
procedure to follow up on that. The profees which will be important in the next go around, make sure all those consults go through. We have left without being seized, left medical advice.
Transferring from ER to observation into inpatient, you know, all
Whatever
these.
supplies are being used along the way. Okay, and then the actual billing piece.
Then it has to hit a bill.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
Right. So, and that will, you know, the new system will automate and help Steve.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking
Supply
about
a lot.
testing to make sure it all flows the way we want it to before we actually go live.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
where I'm
and
going with that.
the great thing, I love this, is that when it's used, when it's used on a patient, there's a par level, so it reports to Steve for repurchasing.
Yeah.
It's not a hand count anymore. It's used,
We have an actual
drops it off the par
inventory.
level. What's that?
We have an actual inventory.
We do.
And you know, that timing will be great with your surgeries on Thursday, some on Tuesdays, mostly on Thursdays, that we can get through the beginning of the week, and then surgery days, we can really focus on.
We are by no means out of the woods, though. There's a lot to do in the next 2 months, a lot to do.
Yeah.
So everyone's keeping their head down. So
There'll be a big transition from reporting to using the system to get data. So, you know, that's what I'm talking to people about, they used to getting reports, but now there's a product called Lights On, which is a dashboard. You can go in and see your turnaround time, you see your
it's on your computer.
your start time, stop times
Oh,
for the
that's so
OR,
beautiful.
to see canceled
I'm
appointments.
a
no.
data geek. I love that.
No shows in the clinic.
Just the data that you're able to gather at at the touch of a button in the system versus having to dig for it in CPSI or multiple different modules with the CPSI is, to me, it's worth its weight in gold. You can actually have, they call it lights on. The administration can see what's going on anytime they want, what's happening here. And so I'm really excited about the analytics. I got to tell you, I'm super excited about that.
You'll track, providing usage when they log on, when they log off, what their actual time in the system is as well. There were, there been stories that we looked at before, but then there was also, a way to hit the silent stuff, or if you see somebody's day is 14 hours, why is it a day 14 hours? When they have the same patient loading, okay, I'll focus on that.
Okay, what degree can you customize those analytics?
So they come with a whole bunch of CAN reports, but then they have the day 2, which is called the
day 2 is the reporting metric.
So you can actually, you can formulate different reports that you want in the system. Now, I mean, it's a database. As long as it's in the database and you can define what fields you're looking for, it can run a report for you. And that's, a couple of people are learning the DA2. The CAN reports, though, are quite comprehensive.
And the big difference is they're exportable into Excel. So
if you wanted to customize a report, would that cost extra fees?
No, we can do it and to a certain degree.
To a certain degree, they're in the contract. I believe you have 3 to 5 a year
that we can
ask for. You tend to focus on the complex data reporting ones.
We're putting some structure behind that, though, so not anybody can just request a report to be built. It has to go through a process to say this is really important to the organization, or we have a quality thing that we're doing, a QIP thing that requires a special report. We can do that.
But it's also educating them that they may not need the report. They may be sitting in front of them on the screen, and that's what I struggle with.
I just worry, I guess from my experience, it's been a long time, that there was always a point of contention between the agency and the vendor as who's going to pay for that.
Well, they can be.
Can be.
Yeah, they can be. But at the beginning, that's where leverage point is before Sean signs acceptance.
Yeah, before you sign acceptance, you got to make sure you have everything, and that otherwise it costs you after that, right?
And not to go back to the point again, but I just have to ask again. So when we're doing our scripts, we really are doing true end-to-end testing from different scenarios from different points in the organization.
True end-to-end.
Okay.
Yep.
Soup to nuts.
Thank you.
You show up
I've
in
been
multiple different
involved in all these
scenarios,
kinds of projects before, so I know.
and a bill's generated at the end.
Okay.
And yes, it is
And then
full integrated testing.
Steve and his team are going to go even deeper and
Appropriate.
build, they will test the billing process by manually increasing charges. Because it'd be too, we can't do that with 14 scripts, the variety of things. But that's what unit testing does. But we've hit the big workflows here, the ED to ops, the inpatient, that's a complex one to make sure that you're flipping the observation person at the right time, so the status of the patient is right.
Your billing codes
You're
and-
counting your hours properly, those type of.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Brian, guys?
Thanks.
I can see why
Thank you.
it's complicated.
Yes. Thanks for all of your help with it. Okay, so I think that brings us into our departmental reports. So we have one here from Jenny. It all looks really good. I was going to ask a question, I guess, Sean, since you're here. It looks here like we're hiring for a clinic director, which we know, but also a clinic assistant.
So they're basically, they're going to assist the director, but they're also a clinic analyst. So there's all this data that has to be compiled for reporting, right? And we had a staff member that was in
For
that
quality
position,
reporting?
yes.
Okay.
We have combined it to both act as the admin assistant to the director, but also compiling these reports for the director, for quality, for those things. So we took one position and gave it 2 jobs.
Okay.
So
With Cerner, will that quality reporting, we should have that built in, right?
it's going to be a lot easier, I think. Well, not built in.
Well, a lot of what that position does is hurts people.
It's cats.
Right. Now, right? But at least be able to have access to the data, and then you'll hurt the cats. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so giving a,
To make at least the data.
yes, that's a very good way of putting it.
Yes.
Like our QA committee, right? So all the managers have to provide reporting in for QA. The reporting in should be a lot easier on Cerner, but they still have to, you gotta have this done by X date, so it goes on the agenda.
And then they can work through whatever needs to change. Okay,
Correct.
that's what I was wondering about. Thank you. And the rest of this look really nice. Of course, I love
They-
the newsletter.
Such a good
going
job
forward.
on the newsletter,
I really love it,
yeah.
yes. And I liked your spiel about spring break and all of the projects and telling everyone, you know, reminding everyone of all the things that we've gone through.
Oh, it's
So
been a
I thought that
whirlwind.
was really well done too. And, yeah, oh, and I put on my calendar the employee appreciation. I'll come down for that if I'm invited.
Oh, good.
to come with
Well,
me.
scoop some ice cream.
Yeah, I'll- I had to change an appointment, but I did that already, so. That all looks good. Anyone have any questions or comments on the HR report? No? Okay, and then on the marketing report, that's where our new phone number is. I have to keep reminding myself, it's 833, because my brain keeps trying to go 866 for some reason.
833-2743.
But yes, so that's awesome, and she's got on here, there's the choosel you were talking about, right?
Yep.
Mhm. I didn't realize it. Okay, now I see that. Somehow I missed the part where she talked about the providers and the recruit for that, so that will be interesting to see how that works out. So for our current recruiting firms, I thought we just paid them when they place somebody. Did we pay them like a
Both.
retainer? Oh,
You pay them for their marketing push,
Okay,
and then there's a placement fee after that. And I honestly think a lot of these recruiting companies are just marketing companies.
they are. We get all kinds of marketing.
They
mail
make their
all
money
the
on the
time from
marketing
these
money, and if they
places.
place somebody, good for you. Good, good.
It's almost a fluke when they do.
Well, they sure
Truthfully.
don't vet them very well, I'll tell you that.
No.
They just, oh, somebody's interested, it's like a dog on a bone, and then we have to vet them.
Yeah.
And we've had some very interesting interviews.
They're still not here.
We've actually been
There's a
submitted
reason for
to several
that.
doctors, and Judy and I would look at each other and go, not a chance, not a chance, nope, nope, nope.
It's too bad we can't get more like a regional recruiting, firms that recruit for like all of our.
No,
regional-
one of them that we have is specific for rural health. That's what they do. That's all they do. And they have sent us some candidates.
Just haven't found anyone with the right candidates.
Yeah, I mean, well, the one that we chased, Jake Oman, I really wanted him to come here.
Yeah, he's still not.
No, we'll see what happens. I'm going to give it a year because it was purchased by a very large healthcare system.
Yeah,
And I call it, the camel's nose is under the tent.
yeah.
They think it's going to just, oh, no, we're going to keep it just like it is. It's going to be wonderful. Trust me, 1 year from now, they'll replace their entire leadership and then they'll start ratcheting down on you. So
That's usually how.
we'll reach out about spring. We'll reach out and see how it's going.
All right, well, and it looks like she's updated the website, so that's awesome.
Yep.
I'm sure that was
We're out of the woods on
that was a lot of work.
Yep.
Okay. So then the next item on the informational agenda is the directors and officers insurance policy. Is Rich still with us?
I'm here.
Step out.
So I don't know if you saw the email that I sent to you, Rich, but it was another, that I copied you on. It was so we're currently, the rest of the board members, we're in the process of reviewing our current coverages through our directors and officers insurance policy. And it's been interesting trying to get information on this because our attorneys won't advise us because they are also attorneys for our insurance company. Why they couldn't tell us what they generally recommend as coverage, I don't know. I may ask for that question again. And then our insurance provider won't provide us with any advice, she'll only provide us with a quote. So we've been kind of stuck. And so we've reached out, we've got I got a comp from one of our local facilities as far as what their policy looks like, which is very different from ours. And then Rich got a comp from someone in the educational side. So we're kind of trying to work through what that should look like. And if anyone has any suggestions on other ways to approach this, I'm all ears because this is very not my area of expertise at all. So at this point, I pushed it back to our insurance folks and said, here, this is what a comparable district facility like us has. Can you describe the difference? Why is ours this way and theirs is this way?
They had
Other than
five, that was a hospital district that had 5 million,
Yep,
a rural.
yep.
Well, if you look at lawsuits these days, $1 million is like,
I know.
nobody even looks
And that's
close
what
at
ours is
that,
right
you know.
now.
So you know that you're gonna have to increase to some extent. Now, of course, county's self-insured, have our own attorneys to defend us, and we're part of a pool. But that's one of the advantages to belonging to some of these organizations,
Oh, that's a good
because
idea. Asking
they
them
will
what their
have
suggestions are.
that type of information.
Okay,
And if not, be headquarters of the pool.
that's a
Yeah.
good point, Sherry.
Right,
Sean, do you think any of those, sorry, he's left the room and come back.
Sorry.
Any of these organizations that we were talking about being members of earlier, Sherry's suggesting maybe they might have a recommendation for us on
For
what
coverage.
our coverage should be.
I think ACHD would be a great one to contact, to reach out and say, what do we have for, because they can poll everybody. They
Yeah.
can send one email out and say, hey, what is your board? What is the coverage on your board?
And we're current with them now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, then I can reach out to him and ask him that question. That's a great idea.
And they can
Thank you, Sherry.
query everybody,
Mhm.
you know, just say, hey, got a question. They do it a lot.
I know some of the smaller special districts have looked even through the Special Districts Association.
Yeah.
Same type of,
Yeah.
but with healthcare being somewhat higher exposure than sewer and water.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I think, you know, going through an organization that specializes in.
Yeah, they have the ability to just query everybody and they can give you good information, kind of what's out there.
And I think what the lady from Beta said is that our coverage is, you know, your example notwithstanding, is in line with what others, and that 1 million, 3 million is standard. And like she said, you can buy any coverage you want.
Yeah, but I don't know what coverage I want or what
Well,
coverage I need because I don't
And,
even
and obviously
understand. the
we'd be
basic-
over-insuring,
Yeah.
knock on wood. So I think that's the thing is that, and she did make a fair comment about saying, it's your risk assessment. Where do you see that our risk lies? In other words, you know, insuring our risk. And I think
Without our attorney's input, I have a hard time assessing that. That's my problem.
Well, and that's the problem, because we all know that as soon as somebody is being sued for anything, they name those 1 to 185.
Right.
Exactly.
And plus anybody else they think that they might have some deep pockets or coverage or something. So the board's gonna be named in almost anything.
Yeah, well, just from my perspective, you know, I think that this board does a really good job of following Brown. I think we're very conscientious of it.
We are.
So I think that, you know, from a liability perspective, you're not gonna be able to, I mean, the board has got to be engaged in some sort of malfeasance or violation in order to be named. You're not gonna sue the board for something that happened at the hospital. That's what the hospital has its own insurance. Right, so I'm wondering what the risk would be. I mean, what can get a board get sued for? A direction?
I think those are all great questions, but then we take that up with the ACH.
ACH, but you can have as much insurance as you want to buy. It's just, are we at risk? Are we going to be in a higher risk exposure point with the current projects?
Right, that's my concern.
That's
a lot
another-
there.
That's a good
A
question.
lot there. Those are the questions that I have is, do we need to kick coverage up in the period where the board is making big decisions around contract awards, you know, awarding contracts and things like that?
Borrowing.
So,
our attorneys need to kick up their coverage.
no, attorneys are kicking up their costs.
They will be doing that, believe me.
Oh my gosh. I love it when the attorneys,
Those are good questions.
they always want to talk about your kids. Or, you know, wait, I'm on the
That's why I brought it up. Rich, did you have something to add?
No, you know, Sherry and I had a discussion last week about that, asking about what the county had. And the information I provided you was community colleges have coverages up to $50 million through a state fund. So, you know, 1 million versus 50, there's quite a difference. And I don't know where trustees on a college board really have the exposure that we might have. So,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, we just need more information, because I don't know what our Plumas County hospitals cover, but 1 million sounds very low to me.
Yeah, so would you agree that reaching out, if I were to reach out to ACHD for assistance, that perhaps that's our best next step?
I agree, yes.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so then I guess with that, we will adjourn to closed session.
Thanks, Steve. All right, you all have a, be careful.
Before
We go.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, the closed session is closed. Open is back open. No reportable action taken during closed session. Our next regular board meeting will be March 30th at 3 p.m. here in the Lake Alhambra Clinic Conference Room. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm carrying this one because I figure it's